Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Q&A. Today's question is, does handling all conflict, be it personal or professional, with silence and patience mean we give our power away? I grew up in a secure home with loving parents. My dad was this tower of silence and patience. That was the only way I always saw him conduct himself. No matter what the issue, Dad was always silent, patient, and waited for storms to pass, and they eventually did. I do the exact same thing today, especially in my personal relationships. I do it at a very heavy cost to myself. I am deeply pained by this silent me, but I don't know how to ask for what I want. Please help me understand this so I can seek forgiveness from myself. So, as I always say, what served our parents and their parents no longer serves us. So the fact that you're repeating the behavior that you've observed your parents model for you, the way they handled relationships, the way they handled conflicts, it's completely normal and to be expected. So that's all you know, right? That's all you've observed. You didn't have another opportunity to witness another way of relating or resolving conflict. So I really think that this is enough for you to accept and forgive that part of you. You describe your father as this pillar of patience and strength, stability. And when I hear this, I see him more as a person who is overwhelmed, perhaps, by big feelings, and his nervous system unable to process it. So I see that kind of behavior more as a fight, flight, freeze, which is a stress response of our nervous system when it's flooded with overwhelming emotions. So suppressing of our emotions also, of course, invariably leads to all kinds of diseases and physical unease. So that makes me wonder whether he had any kind of manifestations physically from all the suppressed emotions. There's something to be said about not wanting or rushing to fix things and to take some time to process. However, when we never engage in conflict or any kind of resolution of conflict, to me, it's just not engaging in relationship. You are not engaged. You're staying silent and not allowing yourself to express the feelings nor hear those of your partner. Avoiding conflict prevents true connection, and we have to move away of viewing conflict as something negative and scary. A healthy conflict can actually provide a platform for us to express our deepest feelings and to bring to surface what has been collecting within us. Otherwise, without it, we just become the problems themselves don't go away. So it just snowballs. And then turns our life into one of resentment and inner war. So if we can allow ourselves to be seen by expressing our opinions and our feelings, this is what actually leads to healthy relationships. So of course, because most of us don't feel safe to express who we are from childhood, we never were able, especially in your case, you didn't observe it. That means you were also never engaged in any kind of difficult conversation with your parents or other members of the family. So we don't have the skill to communicate our needs non-violently at all. So another factor is when we remain silent, it may be interpreted by others as our agreement of the situation or acceptance of it, whereas it may not at all be our intention. And then we have missed the chance to declare our point or what our needs are. The issues that you're not addressing will not go away. So what can we do to resolve the conflict? Research actually shows that relationships thrive from vulnerable discussions and intimacy, and that actually it's not avoiding conflict. So this is actually a misnomer. A lot of us were raised with this idea that the less we fight, the less arguments there are, the better the quality of our relationships. But in fact, research shows the opposite. So it's in our best interest to learn to communicate our needs. And also, lately we hear more and more often that to be heard, seen, and understood is one of our greatest needs. So when we are avoiding conflict, we don't have a chance not only to be seen and understood by the other, but also to understand them, to understand what their position is, to understand where they're coming from, to give ourselves an opportunity to put ourselves in their shoes, and to sort of acquire empathy as to why there's this conflict is even arising. So definitely learn to communicate. Of course, that means understanding that you are worthy of your needs, wants, and desires. So you need to learn to express yourself. Perhaps first start with trying to express yourself, to tell your story in a safe environment, whether it's in a therapist's office or with a coach, or even with some close people in whose presence you feel safe. But starting to allow your feelings, your needs, your desires to be expressed, and allowing yourself to feel them, to even accept them, to admit them, to admit that you are not satisfied with the status quo, to accept that you have needs other than what's been expressed so far or what's just been assumed. So definitely, if you constantly avoid expressing your feelings, you will become emotionally distanced and detached, and avoiding conflict is what ultimately destroys our relationships. So to come back to your questions, is avoiding all conflict, be it personal or professional, with silence and patience, mean we give our power away? I would say yes, and not only give our power away, we're not even engaged. We don't even give ourselves an opportunity to participate in charting the course of our relationships, or to express any kind of desire or wish. We avoid participating with our own life when we're constantly in silence, suppression, and exclusion of our points of view. So I think that's probably why you say it's at a very heavy cost to yourself. I'm deeply pained by this silent me. I totally hear you. It's painful to be in a sealed vessel. It's destructive eventually, in long term. To not allow ourselves to express ourselves freely is going to blow up one way or the other, whether it's through violence, violent expression, the conflict will be unavoided. Or what happens very, very, even most often with women and men for that matter, who don't allow themselves anger, who don't allow themselves emotions that we in our society deem difficult, well, we just get sick. So seek forgiveness from myself. Well, the forgiveness is automatic, right? You've never seen anything other than being silent and waiting for things to pass. So there is absolutely no reason to blame yourself, but taking active measures to learn to communicate who you are and what your needs are, and how you want to live, and what your morals are, and what your values are, is imperative for all of us, for healthy living. Because of course, ultimately, the most important relationship we're engaged in is our relationship with ourselves. So learning to allow our emotions, learning to allow our feelings, learning to allow our preferences, hearing them, recognizing them, and then going as far as expressing them to people with whom we share our lives is absolutely imperative for healthy life and our personal well-being. So I hope this is helpful, and I will see you next week.